Single friends, join me, Lisa Anderson, for a show that is filled with encouragement, practical advice, and inspiration that's designed to empower your journey wherever you are on it. The Boundless Show is the ultimate destination for Christian singles and young adults just like you. Tune in to Moody Radio Cleveland, and you can discover a community of fun folks who are walking it out together. The Boundless Show on Moody Radio Cleveland, every Saturday at 3:30 p.m.
Mother's Day is May 11th, giving us a chance to say,
I love you, Mom.
I love you, Mommy.
I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom.
We have one more way, 2 gifts that will go to one mom. Enter our Moments with Mom contest for a chance to give your mom, your mother figure, or yourself a $550 gift package, a gift certificate for a day at Lux Spa in Chagrin Falls, and a $100 gift card to her choice of the Lake House, 17 River Grill, Cedar Creek Grill, or Bar Italia will go to a mother who reflects the love of Christ. Go to moodyradio.org/Cleveland or text MOM to 440-546-2255. We'd love to hear about a moment with the mom in your life and to help you honor her and say,
I love you, Mom.
Go to moodyradio.org/Cleveland or text MOM to 440-546-2255 to enter our Moments with Mom contest for an opportunity to bless her with a well-deserved day of rest and relaxation.
I think we can all agree there is no greater gift that any of us could receive. To have the burden of our sin lifted off our shoulders and taken away, never to be placed back upon us.
Here is Jonathan Griffiths with today's Moment of Truth.
We all know the experience of carrying a burden of guilt. We know what it is to be fully convinced that we are in the wrong, that we have done wrong, that we deserve to face consequences for our wrongdoing. We know what it is, don't we, to regret that which we have done, to wish for all the world that we had done things differently, that we could have a do-over, but to know with sadness that there's no going back, there's no undoing it. We know what it is to be aware of our guilt before God. Even those who don't openly acknowledge God, I would suggest, have this inner sense of awareness and accountability before Him. We know what it is to fear what the future would hold were we held to account for our crimes. We know what it is to bear guilt, to labor under the weight of our sin, and many will be here today feeling something of a weight of that. For some among us, the weight of that guilt will be a crushing thing. You may not speak of it to others, you may try and bury it, but the guilt and the weight of sin, it's always there. You feel it pressing down upon you. And the wonder of the gospel is that Jesus, the guiltless one, came and paid the price of our sin in full when He died at the cross. He dealt with it fully, and justice was satisfied.
It's our desire here at Moment of Truth with Jonathan Griffiths that God's Word would go out into the nations and make disciples and empower Christians. To learn more, visit our website, encounterthetruth.org. That's encounterthetruth.org.
It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Christian counseling for adults, couples, children, and families. North Coast Family Foundation. WCRF Cleveland. WVMS Sandusky. WVML Millersburg. WVMN Newcastle. WVME Meadville. WVMU Ashtabula. And with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Harvard University is suing the Trump administration in an effort to block the government from freezing funding to the school. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The lawsuit is looking to block the administration from withholding funding for what it calls leverage to gain control of academic decision-making at Harvard. Earlier, the Wall Street Journal reported that the Trump administration is planning to pull an additional $1 billion in funding from Harvard. Akron police are working to identify 2 men they say robbed a local bank yesterday. According to reports, the suspects entered a PNC Bank branch just before 2 p.m., with one acting as a lookout and the other showing a firearm and threatening a security guard. And Lieutenant Governor Jim Tressel says he is not considering a run for Ohio governor. Tressel says he is treating his current role like he did his stint with the Buckeyes, which means focusing on current tasks without getting too far ahead. In sports, the Guardians took down the Yankees 6-4, and the NCAA Division I Board of Directors has proposed deleting 153 rules from its handbook, which would allow schools to provide direct financial payments to players, including for use of their name, image, and likeness. The rules are intended to bring clarity and stability to the NIL environment for all Division I schools. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Mostly sunny today with high temperatures in the mid-60s. And at last check, we had cloudy skies, 51 degrees in Cleveland, 50 in Akron and Canton, 48 in Ashtabula.
It's time for your moron moment.
For the last 50 years, Earth Day has been celebrated by billions of people around the globe every April 22nd. The point is to join together in promoting the awareness for the health of our environment. Christians can and should celebrate Earth Day because it provides an opportunity to express gratitude for God's creation, recommit to stewardship, and worship the God who created and cares for the earth. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:02. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
happy Tuesday. Lauren is out again today. She's okay, don't worry.
Yeah.
Just when one of your children decides not to sleep.
She sent us a text at like 2 a.m. It's like, hey, Ellis did not go to bed. Ergo, I did not. I'm not coming in.
Yeah, I don't blame her.
I don't either.
And then, Ron.
Yes.
You tree hugger.
Oh, yes, I am. I actually have, I guess you'd say pet trees before.
You're going to have to explain that.
Pet trees?
Yeah.
Not okay. So wait. So you actually pet them like a dog, or it is your pet? It's a tree, and you're like, "Hello, pet."
Pet them like a dog.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, action verb. My 8th grade algebra teacher told us about. She would roll up a newspaper and go out and spank her trees because she heard that was conducive to making them flourish.
The wind does that.
And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy. But then I was out there one day and just looking at different trees and, oh, this limb's a little weak. This one looks good. I might need to trim this. And I thought, you know what? You're a good tree, and petting it. And I thought, this is kind of dumb, but nobody's seeing me.
Well,
and no one knew till now.
And now they know. Yeah, and you brought up Earth Day, and I think it's super important. And here's, like, one of my pet peeves in life is when followers of Jesus decide on how they're going to feel about something or react to something, not based on Scripture, but based on how people they don't like act.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
for example, let's just say someone decides that environmentalists are worshiping, the environment and not the Lord Jesus. Therefore, I'm against whatever they stand for. Wrong.
No recycling.
Yeah, wrong. Yeah. That is not how Christians behave.
I actually know someone who will not recycle, will intentionally throw things into the trash, even though I have recycling bins at my house, because
what are we doing, guys?
Liberal people do that. And it's like, no, Christian people do that. Are you saying you're not a Christian now? Are you removing yourself from the flock of believers?
Yeah.
But I don't confront her like that. I just wait till she's gone and I pick the recyclables back out
and you put them in the
where
bin.
they belong.
Doing the opposite of what people you disagree with do is not the call of the Christian life.
Well, I don't understand how this concept that it's bad to care for our planet somehow became the pet of a specific political leaning or is unchristian. Like, God gave Adam and Eve the earth to take care of and to steward. Therefore, we should take care of it the best we can.
Yeah, and again, if you want to know how to feel about it, you're right. You look at the Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
God made the trees, and it's incredible. In fact, a friend of mine from church is a naturalist for the Cleveland Metro Parks, which I think is already really cool. I feel cool saying I know a naturalist.
Yeah.
He specializes, his expertise is in the natural world, in like the natural sciences, like plants
cool.
and trees and
nature.
Nature. So he takes people, he works for the Metro Parks and like takes people on canoe trips and hikes.
Oh, I love our Metro Parks.
And the Brecksville Reservation is absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. And they have a little building. That's where he works. And,
nice.
And inside there, they have a slice of a tree that ultimately died a number of years ago. And what they've done is they've finished it in a way where you can really see the rings well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then they put pinpricks at years.
Uh-huh.
So you can see how old the tree is and how much it's lived through.
So like the signing of the Constitution would be this ring here.
Yeah.
And
which is like a ways into its life.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Magna Carta in here. And
yeah.
Jesus walked. No, maybe not that
long. It's a very old tree.
Well, when you go to Israel, there are olive trees that are very old in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Some of those groves are like 1,000, 2,000 years old.
Wow.
And so all that to say, it's like God made that. It's beautiful. Why not care for it?
Mm-hmm.
And the older I've gotten, the more, I've talked about this before, but the more, like, if insects are in my house, I'm not happy. But I'm outside. I'm not going to, like, go kick over an anthill.
No.
But I used to do that. As a kid, like little boys, that's like, ha-ha, I will conquer you.
Or the magnifying glass, try to get the beam really hot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did that, didn't we? So, Ron, thank you for bringing up Earth Day. I'm glad that you did. It's
You're
something
welcome.
where I think Christians ought to surprise the world when we do things they don't expect.
Mm-hmm.
Like when someone's like, it's Earth Day, Christian. You go, yeah, good.
Yeah.
I love it.
The earth is the Lord's and the fullness therein.
Ron Eastwood with a big win. Guess what's back? There's a trend that was huge years ago. And I didn't get it at first, but now it's back. My kids had all their friends over yesterday, and people were taking turns doing this challenge.
Not like cinnamon or...
No, that one's so dumb. Yeah. It's dangerous. Don't ever do that. No, it was like one of the original challenges. It was for ALS.
Oh, the ice bucket.
Ice bucket challenge is back.
Is it?
But it's not for ALS this time.
What's it for?
Suicide awareness, or something along those lines.
Okay.
Excellent. It's something to be aware of for sure. But the kids are all like ice bucket challenge. Like my nephew had someone pour ice water on his head yesterday and nominated me to do it. And it's a weird situation where
You have to.
Well,
you have to.
That's what my kids are saying is that I have to. And then I'm also kind of like, can we hold here? What happened to ALS? And do you guys realize this happened before?
Right.
This is like the first time I think a social media trend has come full circle, and it's back.
Everything comes back around.
Right, but...
I was, my mom and I went to Kohl's the other day, and there's clothes that were popular when I was 10. Like, that's back, really?
But how many social media trends come full circle? The this challenge, that challenge. Here we are. The very first challenge is back, and my kid's like, oh, look at this brand new thing. Isn't it cool? No, it's...
And is it a fundraiser? Like the ALS thing, you were supposed to film your ice bucket challenge and then
make a
send
donation.
$20 to the ALS Foundation.
I haven't researched it enough yet to give you a solid answer to that. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah. Like most social media challenges, I think most people just did it because, I want to be cool. I want to fit in. And they didn't send money, but ALS Foundation did make a lot of money off of that.
Well, yeah, I found out about this yesterday. I get a text message from my nephew, Sam. Love that kid. He's a junior in high school in the Minneapolis area. And it just said, you have 24 hours.
Clock's ticking, Brian.
And we don't text a ton.
Yeah.
And I had no context for this. And I was like, is this for me? Or is this like some joke from a horror movie?
Right.
Like I have 24 hours to live?
Final destination?
So I just did the question mark on the text because I'm trendy.
Nice job.
And then he's like, check your Instagram. I'm like, oh boy, how do I do that? I haven't done that in a while. Oh boy. Why do I have... Deurr, you just want to see me get ice water poured on me.
It'll be great content.
Will it?
She's got a point.
Don't look at me like that. It will be great content.
People will want to see that.
Well, guess who I'm going to challenge then? Daria.
Okay.
Will you do it?
If you do it.
Really? And you say no to everything. I'm disoriented. Hello, where am I? Who am I?
I have to be consistent.
The queen of no saying yes.
Yeah, wow.
I'm wondering about the term you nominate someone, and it sounds more like you're dictating you will do this.
Oh, yeah. No, you really don't have a choice.
Well, I mean, in the ALS one, I did because I chose not to. But
for shame.
My daughter is looking at me like, Dad, you have to do this. I go, oh, do I?
Yeah.
And then
make me.
Yeah. I was like, if you do all the work and I just have to stand there, I'll do it.
Oh.
So we'll see if that actually happens. And if it does, buckle up, Daria. Can I nominate her to do it like multiple times?
That's not how that works.
Oh, isn't it? It's all made up anyway. Can't I change it?
No.
Okay, now she says no. Yeah. I get it. All right, 6:15. We're up against quick break. When we come back, we did the Buckner Shoes campaign. Mm-hmm. Our friend Tabi at Moody Radio Chattanooga was a big part of that. Well, when I was recording a conversation with her, I had her chat with our friend Lauren about a notorious incident that happened in India where I failed at chivalry, kinda.
Okay.
I'm going to expose that situation, and we'll listen back to that conversation, plus more here in just a minute.
Encourage Foster Care is a private, faith-based foster care agency located in 13 counties throughout Northeast and Central Ohio. Every month, Encourage receives dozens of requests for foster homes in Northeast Ohio. Due to the lack of foster homes, they are forced to turn away up to 80 children a month. Encourage is currently working to expand their services and support. Learn how you can be a part of the solution and help create hope for the community at buildinghopecampaign.org.
Easter marks the triumphant celebration of Jesus' resurrection. But the power of Christ's victory over death is something we can carry with us every day. This April, join Today in the Word for a Bible study focused on the profound truth of Christ's resurrection. Devotional author John Kessler will lead us through the Bible to be refreshed by the hope we have in Christ. To join this month's study, go to todayintheword.com or download the Today in the Word app.
Hey, my name is Brant Hansen. I'm an author and radio guy who did something about 15 years ago that changed my life. That is when I first visited a Cure International Children's Hospital. What Cure is doing to heal the sick and proclaim the kingdom is so brilliant. It's so profound. It is the most Jesus-shaped ministry I've ever seen. More people need to know about it, so I'm really glad you're hearing about it right now on Moody Radio. Please check it out online. It's cure.org/Moody. That's cure.org/Moody.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to support from our listeners and businesses like Fellowship Home Loans. They'll talk about the numbers as well as your hopes, dreams, and the market's reality. Home is where the heart is. It's where families grow and where dreams are born. More information is at 800-804-7283. That's 800-804-SAVE or fellowshiphomeloans.com. Welcome home.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Jesus. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio, Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
6:21 now on WCRF. We're going to have our friend Dr. Glenn Deurr with us from Cedarville University right around 8 o'clock to talk about the big news story. I was chatting about it with my family a bit yesterday as well, in the passing of Pope Francis. Not only were there questions about the role of the Pope in the Catholic Church in my family, but also like the idea of the Pope being a head of state.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was announcements about which world leaders will be going to the funeral, and somebody in my family was like, "Why? That's weird." I was like, "No, actually, it's not.
No,
it would be the same as a foreign leader passing away, and everybody sends their representatives."
Right.
It's an odd idea, Vatican City. So
Yes.
we'll talk with Dr. Deurr about that. So
good.
That'll be fun. I think it's also the smallest country in the world.
As far as I know Liechtenstein is small, but
I've been there.
Well,
Liechtenstein, yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I think Vatican City's smaller, but yeah.
Population-wise, I know it is, but I'm not sure about size.
Yeah.
Because it's a city within a city. I mean, the Vatican is within the city limits of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a weird situation. So we'll chat with him about it to better understand that, and then talk about the influence of the coming days as cardinals from around the world are flying to Vatican City.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're flying to Rome. There's no airport at Vatican City.
Yeah, good
Please
point.
don't fly to Vatican City, actually. Also, hey, by the way, Mother's Day is coming up soon. Red alert, Mother's Day is coming. So you know what that means. It's
Yeah.
more important than any other day of the year. Right, Ron?
So they say.
Yeah, so you're going to have to start making reservations now, save hundreds of dollars for mom. There's presents already. I'm already seeing ads online, actually.
I'm surprised it took this long for you to see them.
Well, yeah, it's look at this necklace. If you hold it up to the light, it, I don't know, sings to you or whatever it does. And
Yeah.
mothers are weeping in the ad. Just,
Of course.
this is what I wanted. And then there's you get some custom thing made of mom and the kids.
Yeah.
And she's weeping.
Right. That she knows you really love her. Because if you just buy her a card from the dollar store and not from Hallmark, then you don't really love her. You just say you do.
That's right.
Where are you finding dollar cards anymore? I cannot find them.
Yes. No, I looked the other day. I could not find a dollar card, even at the dollar store.
Yeah, I had to get a couple birthday cards. I spent like $10 on a few birthday cards. The dollar cards are gone.
We got to get into this business. We do. Like, even if we charged $1.50 for our cards, we could just
We're still
make
undercutting
it.
the competition.
That's right.
So what are cards at the dollar store now then?
It's like regular price, like 3, 4. I mean, I think the name's not a rule anymore.
I used to go to like the 99-cent section because
Yeah, me too.
I'll write my own thing in there because it's all cheesy anyway, and I'd rather not spend $5 on a piece of cardboard. It doesn't exist anymore.
No. Yeah, it's too bad. Anyway, we're setting up your Mother's Day for a big win.
All right.
Like you could, for mom, for yourself, if you're a mom and you wanna win this.
Sure.
We could take care of Mother's Day for you. We have a Mother's Day giveaway running. Prize estimated at over $550. It's a spa gift card and a restaurant gift card.
Now, I know the mother in my life, Dana, she would love both of those.
Oh, yeah, a spa, that's all you would need. But there's more, a restaurant.
Yeah.
So if you want to enter for your chance to win our Mother's Day giveaway, all you have to do is text the word MOM to 440-546-2255. Text MOM to 440-546-2255. We'll send you back a link that you can register for your chance to win. And contest runs through Friday, May 11th. So get on it, Friday, May 11th, and then we'll announce the winner shortly thereafter. All right, I couldn't resist the chance to randomly tell you something. Our friend Tabi Upton, who is a host of Moody Radio Morning Show in Chattanooga, Tennessee, she was on our Buckner campaign with us because she's done a bunch of mission trips with them. And when we were in India, she gave me a hard time. We went to India together for India Partners like a year and a half ago.
Yep.
And it's difficult to describe what traffic is like in India. But it's like there's no rules and it's like everyone for themselves. And it's just so scary. And our hotel was right by this sort of side street that was just traffic locked.
Okay.
And we had to kind of cross the street at one point. Our taxi dropped us off like on the wrong side. And I thought it was an every man for himself situation. But I don't think anyone else thought that.
It's going to be a lot harder if you try to group up and get a bunch of people across at once.
Well, so I've told Lauren about this for a long time, and even though she's out today, I recorded this last week with our friend Tabi, and I yanked Lauren in the studio and asked Tabi to tell Lauren what happened.
Okay.
Here's this random story for you from Tabi Upton.
Phones are huge. Okay, Tabi, what happened?
Girl. So let me tell you about the time that Brian left me in the middle of the interstate.
Not surprising.
In
the
India,
interstate.
Okay. So what had happened was, it was late at night, and we were about to go back to the airport. I think that was it. And our guide we were trying to get from one side of the street where we had gotten dropped off from to our hotel, which was about 8 lanes across, I think. And so they were jumping over this divider to get over there and run across the street. And I discovered during that very moment that I was not in as good a shape as I thought I was in. So I struggled jumping over, and then began to run. And then I turned to the left, and I see about 1,000 cars speeding towards me.
Yeah.
And I froze. I thought, I'm not going to make it across.
I would have done the same thing.
Struck. So I tried to get in the middle of the lane and just let the cars pass me, but they saw me and they stopped. And meanwhile, Brian and the guide had gotten across and were going to the hotel.
And he just left you there.
Left me out there. And I'm screaming, Brian!
Brian, she was yelling for you, and you left her.
It's every man for themselves.
No, that's not what Jesus says.
And so I kind of died for a minute, but I came back to life, and then I walked across.
He tells that story very differently.
I do?
Yeah, you tell him how scared you were.
It was scary.
And so you're going to let her be scared alone?
Well, she screamed.
I'm never going anywhere
with
you.
It was like Frogger. It was too late.
No, and I gave them so much grief. I was like, you left me in the street.
Yeah, that's crazy. You should give him grief. Wow, Brian.
But I have forgiven him, and all is well.
So what do you think?
I wasn't in the situation, so I can't pass judgment on you.
How dare you?
You're so gracious. I mean, but by the time she was screaming my name, it really was too late.
Yeah, you can't turn
around.
I
stopped and I when I got through traffic, I turned around, and there she was. She stopped. You're not supposed to stop.
No.
You just go, and they stop for you. And she's in the middle of the street screaming, and I'm on the other outside, like going, "What do you want me to do? Come, jump over the cars? What am I, Jason Bourne?"
Maybe. You might have a secret identity you didn't know.
No, I do not. But she forgave me, so that's all that matters.
Is it though?
I guess. All right. You all get frustrated with me with my love for studies. I love surveys and studies. But I've got one I don't know that you can argue with.
Okay, we'll try.
We'll get to that after we pause for prayer.
I'm Cindy Farini, and this is Pause for Prayer. A direct quote from Oswald Chambers from My Utmost for His Highest says this: "The tiniest things we allow in our lives that are not under the control of the Holy Spirit is quite sufficient to account for spiritual muddle, and all the thinking we like to spend on it will never make it clear. Spiritual muddle is only made plain by obedience. Immediately we obey, we discern. This is humiliating because when we are muddled, we know the reason is in the temper of our mind. When the natural power of vision is devoted to the Holy Spirit, it becomes the power of perceiving God's will." Let's pause for prayer. Lord, we certainly never see you muddled. In your ways are always clear, they are concise, and they are perfect. Our obedience and discernment cause us to come under the power of the Holy Spirit to see things your way. In this way, you help us to take the high road when things seem against us, the ability to act with humility when we feel we've been taken advantage of, and to act out of love when people have been unlovely to us. It's not easy, but when we desire to obey, you give the ability for us to discern the right and the good ways to present ourselves so that we represent you well. We pray for your will to show us. When we desire to act rightly, you will guide us. May we be examples to our children, grandchildren, and all of those around us. You will make our way your way, and may we be faithful in it always. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
We can't go back to the starting line in the race of life. What's done is done, but we're not tied to our past mistakes. By following God's instructions and allowing Him to heal our wounds, we can be freed from the weight of guilt, regret, and bitter heartache. Order the book, Putting Your Past Behind You by Dr. Erwin Lutzer. Start your healing and restoration journey today. Find Putting Your Past Behind You at moodybooks.org.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
.36, it's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studio. Whether it's your faith or your health, you don't have to journey alone. And in just a minute, we're going to talk about belief in the afterlife and new statistics on this among Americans of all different stripes. Before we do that, though, I got to remind you, the Cleveland Leadership Prayer Breakfast is coming up. This has been happening for decades. I think since Mayor Voinovich or something, Ron?
Yes.
I believe he was in the first one, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was called the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast at that point.
And we kicked out the mayor, and it's just kidding. No, we didn't do that. It's just now it's just the Cleveland Leadership Prayer Breakfast. There's an Akron luncheon, but that's sold out. So
yeah, too late on that one.
The IX Center won't sell out unless all of Ohio shows up, because the IX Center is so big. There's plenty of room for you. A lot of people are already attending, but there's plenty of room for you. It's May 8th at the IX Center, May 8th.
Yeah.
It's a great chance for you to bring an unsaved friend. It's in the morning. You go to it, and then they dismiss promptly, I think at 9, and you go right to work.
Right. Yeah.
And this year's speaker, every year it's incredible. This year it's Jeff Struker. He's a 23-year Army veteran and Army Ranger Hall of Famer. And his keynote will be discussing not just how he found Jesus, but his experiences in the Battle of Mogadishu, better known by us here in the stateside things of Black Hawk Down, okay? So you can enter to win a pair of tickets to sit at our table. Like you, Ron Eastwood, Daria, and your friend having breakfast together.
Yes, and just keep your eyes on your bacon.
Yeah, because they could disappear. Get ready to slap Ron's hand. Just practice that with your spouse or something. So you want to join us for this? You could enter for your chance to win. Again, it's May 8th at the IX Center. Text BREAKFAST to 440-546-2255. Text BREAKFAST to 440-546-2255.
If you've never been to the IX Center, it's right on the property, I guess you'd say, of the airport.
Yeah.
Right next door, easy access, a lot of, quick established roadways to get wherever you're heading. So don't worry about being stuck in some backwater area where you can't get out. You get out quite easily. Plenty of parking. It's really designed perfectly for an event like this.
It's where all the shows are, the home and garden show, the RV show, the car show, the show, all the shows.
Yeah.
The best in show. Okay, you all know I have this affinity for studies and surveys. I love them. I think they're not perfect ever, but I think they're an interesting window into society and life, and they generate good discussions. I especially like when someone does a study of a study.
Oh, or a meta study.
Yeah, it's very meta. A guy named Ryan Burge, he's an associate professor of political science at Eastern Illinois University. He studied nearly 5 decades of data.
Okay.
We're happy already. 5 decades.
I like that.
It's longitudinal, as they say in school. And it was all data collected through the General Social Survey. It's been conducted regularly since 1973. Okay? Now, not only did he look at the data from this survey, he knows what question they asked. Everybody gets wound up about that. Oh, yeah, Brian, how they asked the question.
It's true.
It is true. So the survey posed, since 1973, a straightforward question.
Okay.
Do you believe there is life after death?
That is straightforward. Very good. Well phrased.
Do you believe there is a life after death, I guess is more accurately phrased. Do you believe there is a life after death? How do you feel? Are you ready to poke holes in that yet?
So far, so good.
Pretty clear?
Yeah.
There's no secret way to answer that?
No.
Seems pretty straightforward. Okay. And respondents had 2 choices in that to answer that. Yes? No. Can we destroy the survey yet?
No.
It forces you into a side. There's no I don't know.
There will be some who say, well, to be intellectually honest, I don't know. So I would want a maybe. But, I guess you just don't answer then.
So if you were going to guess in 1973, of the entire sample group, in 1973, what percentage of people believed in an afterlife, do you think?
Guessing it was probably a majority.
Okay, so what are you saying, like 51% or more than that?
Let's go with 60.
Ron?
75.
Ron for the win, 76%.
Oh, nice job, Ron.
When Americans in general were surveyed, this is not people of faith, Americans were surveyed in 1973, 76% said yes, they believe there's life after death. Didn't say what kind, but they believe there's life after death.
Sure.
What about the most recent data from this that Ryan Bird studied? It was in 2022. How many Americans do you think said, yes, I believe in life after death? What percent in 2022?
Guessing it's probably dropped to like 45.
That's what I was thinking too.
You're both wrong. It went up.
Really?
Huh.
Not just kind of up. 82% of Americans
Oh, you're kidding.
in 2022, 82% said, yes, I believe there's life after death.
That's encouraging, I think, for Christians. Because even if they don't believe in, heaven and hell the way we do, maybe they're thinking reincarnation or some other form of life after death. It gives you something to start a conversation with.
Yeah, I feel like that would be an easier bridge between, what they believe versus, getting into salvation and who Jesus is versus someone who thinks that, you go into nothingness, you fall asleep, and nothing happens when you die.
Yeah, it does show a level of spiritual openness, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it gets even more interesting to me. They are able to disaggregate the data into different categories. So if you look at the people who have been throughout these many studies done every couple of years, who are religiously unaffiliated, they're like, they check the box, none of the above when given options for religion. So we call them nuns now, N-O-N-E-S. In 1973, 50% of nuns said, yes, I believe in life after death. So half, exactly half, well, about half of religiously unaffiliated Americans said, yeah, I believe there's life after death. Now, they're not saying they're atheists. They're just saying they're unaffiliated. Now, starting in 2000, the data has become consistent. It's higher. Between 2000 and 2022, there's been about 60% of nuns say, yeah, I believe in life after death. It went up about 10%.
It's interesting.
What do you make of this?
We're seeing a resurgence of spiritualism in this country, specifically among the younger generations. There's a lot of openness to things like Buddhism, or just very vague, believing that there's some, not a deity, but not a deity in the universe that kind of controls things. So I do think there are probably a fair amount of people that would say there is no God, but there is an afterlife.
Yeah, which is such a weird thing. I'd love to talk to that person a little bit. Like how I understand that people will make that conclusion, right? They'll have that idea and then stop without doing any critical analysis.
We've talked about manifestation on this show before, which is basically prayer without God. I mean, they wouldn't call it prayer, but that's basically what they're doing. So I'm wondering if just the resurgence of spiritualism has something to do with it.
But you know what I mean, right? When you start asking follow-up questions, suddenly their theology falls into tiny little pieces.
Right.
But I like the idea that there's openness, and the openness seems to be increasing, not just in general, but even among the unaffiliated. I would see that as a positive sign. How about just for funsies, let's analyze this one. Apparently, men are more likely than women to reject the notion of life after death.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because just online, the things that I see, it's mostly women that are wrapped up in this sort of pseudo spiritualism.
So what's the obstacle for men? It just seems too feminine to believe in.
I mean, so if we're looking specifically at what I'm talking about, which is the spiritualism, there's no logic in it at all. And I think men are just much more logical than women, which are just kind of like this feels good, even though logically it makes no sense. Versus, we can get into this in another conversation, but religion, there is logic behind it versus what they're doing. It literally makes no sense.
Ron?
I think there's a fair amount of men who they want to be their own God. I mean, they wouldn't phrase it that way, but they want control of their universe. And it's hard for them to admit that there is a higher power, that higher power has an intelligence and, loves them and has a plan for their life. The deeper you go into what we as Christians believe of as God, some men find that really difficult to acknowledge that God and to bow a knee before him.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on that. And I mean, I'm encouraged overall. It sounds like you all are as well, that we're seeing more and more Americans, even those who are not affiliated with religion, open to the idea that there is an afterlife.
Yeah.
And, since Easter is just behind us, I can't resist the opportunity to say, if you're one of those people that's open to the idea, but you're not affiliated with religion, you just think it's interesting to hear Christians talk about things like this, because it is probably. Consider that Jesus claimed to be God in the scriptures. Like, read the Gospels. Give it a shot. See that he did claim to be God, and that historical evidence indicates there's no question about his true existence as a human. And the tomb was empty. There's no historical evidence to dispute the fact the tomb was empty. And he himself said the only way to the Father is through him. If you confess with your lips that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved.
Yes.
It is good news. Explore it. If you're open, I think you should explore it. And those of us who love Jesus know that someone who's open will not respond well to us being angry at people who don't believe. Instead, doing what Jesus said and actually love them.
Join a diverse group of local business and community leaders on Thursday, May 8th at the Cleveland Leadership Prayer Breakfast. Make friends and business contacts. And join us in prayer and the keynote address about fearless leadership from Jeff Struker. He's a member of the U.S. Army Ranger Hall of Fame who's been in several battles. Find out more and purchase your tickets by sending the word prayer to 440-546-2255 or go to neoleadershipevents.com. Register by April 30th.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
The world is changing fast. AI, global crises, and shifting cultural landscapes are shaping future generations in ways that are hard to imagine. The question isn't if change is coming. The question is, how will we respond? Join Moody Bible Institute this May in Chicago for Future Church, preaching and leading the next generation. This powerful conference will equip you with dynamic preaching methods and cutting-edge leadership strategies to reach that next generation. Register now at moodyconferences.com. That's moodyconferences.com.
It's a no negativity zone on Moody Radio Cleveland and Mornings with Brian.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Winans, 6:54, WCRF. Our friend Lauren is out today. Lord willing, she's back tomorrow. If her children sleep tonight, she'll be back. And you know what? I heard from a psychologist a while back that we spend most of our life triggered. Like most people walk around triggered all the time.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I don't think I fall in that camp.
No, I don't think you do at all. But, like all the incidents of road rage with all the videos we see of Karens online, people are walking around wound up real tight. And it has to do with some brain science in terms of like how your brain works in the fight or flight mode versus, when you're relaxed. So, and a really helpful Psychology Today article addresses this problem. And I love when brain science meets with biblical wisdom, because since God's the author of human life, of course it's going to coincide. And what one psychologist said will be the game changer in the quality of your relationships. It often comes down to how we manage anxiety in the moment. Like when you receive a text message and you're not sure how it's meant.
Right.
A lot of people go to the negative.
Right.
What, are you trying to fight with me?
It could be a lighthearted joke or the worst insult ever. So you go to the insult.
Mm-hmm. And even there's people who drive you nuts. So every time they talk, you just presume they're trying to drive you nuts on purpose when they're probably not even thinking about you at all. So a psychologist says there's actually a really simple solution to this, and it could change the quality of your relationships. And they've seen their clients find success in this. And what is it? It's simply that was something they call the 30-second reset. But 30 seconds isn't required, because that's an eternity, by the way. If someone's talking to you and you pause for 30 seconds, it's rude. So I don't know why they're calling it that, but it's essentially you pause, take a deep breath, and like name your feeling quickly in your head. Be like, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling whatever. And then ask yourself, what do I want here? Do I want to ruin this relationship? Do I want to fight? Or maybe you could say, you know what? This is my wife. She loves me. I want a good relationship. Mm-hmm. Now you can choose your response. It's giving yourself that deep breath and that pause can change the entire thing. You guys ever tried this?
No, I might have to now, though.
Yeah, not like that, but similar. The whole take a deep breath and reset is, a common technique.
Well, yeah, and I think even for Christians today, our society is so polarized, right? And if you're talking with a colleague or a friend or a neighbor, and you feel yourself getting wound up because maybe they brought up politics you disagree with, or they made a comment you don't like, whatever it is, if you take a quick pause and ask yourself that question, what's my goal here? I think it'll change the entire game. Because if your goal is continue relationship for the sake of the gospel, you may not start fighting with someone about their political positions.
Right.
You may not put a stupid comment on social media. You might not send that rude text message. At least I think that could actually preserve a lot of people's relationships.
I would hope so.
So again, take a quick pause, take a deep breath. And it's amazing how much a deep breath can actually relax your body. And ask yourself, what do I want here? What's my goal? I want a wife that loves me. I want children that are not always hearing their dad yelling. Mm-hmm. See if it makes a difference for you. All right, it's 6:58, time for us to jet. But before we do, actually, I had set this aside. Keep in mind, this fits perfectly with Scripture. Mm-hmm. James said, know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Proverbs 13:3, whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. He who opens his lips wide comes to ruin. Proverbs 17:28, even a fool keeps silent and is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent. Proverbs 10:19, when words are many, transgressions are lacking. When words are many, transgression is not lacking. Yeah. But whoever restrains his lips is prudent. I would interpret that as take a deep breath, pause for a minute. Let wisdom prevail. Scripture's consistent with brain science. Give it a try. All right, time for Ron's News and today's Moron Moment. And when we come back, a dilemma I think a lot of people are facing as they care for aging parents.
There's joy in the journey. It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
President Trump will attend the funeral of Pope Francis. It's 7 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The College of Cardinals will meet today to discuss funeral plans. Mr. Trump said he and the First Lady are looking forward to being there. Governor Mike DeWine is ordering flags lowered across Ohio in honor of Pope Francis. All flags at public buildings and grounds in the state will remain at half-staff until sunset on the day the Pope is interred. And a statue at the Cleveland Museum of Art, which was originally stolen from Libya's Ptolemais Museum during World War II, is now heading back to that country that it was created in, according to Scene magazine. CMA confirmed last week that statue of a man will be flying back to the hands of Libya's Department of Antiquities in Tripoli roughly a year after an investigation into the piece's origins kicked off. In sports, the Guardians took down the Yankees 6-4, and the NCAA Division I Board of Directors has proposed deleting 153 rules from its handbook, which would allow schools to provide financial payments to players, including for use of their name, image, and likeness. The rules are intended to bring clarity and stability to the NIL environment for all Division I schools. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Mostly sunny today with highs in the mid-60s. At last check, cloudy and 49 in Cleveland, 49 in Akron and Canton, and 50 degrees in Youngstown.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
For the past 50 years, Earth Day has been celebrated by billions of people all around the globe every April 22nd. The point is to join together in promoting awareness for the health of our environment. Christians can and should celebrate Earth Day because it provides an opportunity to express gratitude for God's creation, recommit to stewardship, and worship the God who created and cares for the earth. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:02. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
6:05 WCRF Mornings with Brian, and Lauren is out today. She's back tomorrow, Lord willing. She's fine, don't worry. Just one of her kids didn't sleep last night. So, mommies need their rest. Caring for aging parents is a significant issue for a lot of people. Just when you think you're an empty nester, a lot of people end up shifting gears and then caring for somebody else.
Right.
Is this real common among your peers, Ron?
Yes. Both of my parents have already passed, but my brother and sister-in-law care for her mother. There's an in-law suite that is built onto their home, and she's living there and been doing well for her age. She's in her 90s now.
Yeah, I don't know that many people are prepared for that to happen. I mean, some maybe, but I think when someone pictures their golden years of their life, right? When they're, I guess golden's pretty intense, but post 50,
okay,
you start to think, oh, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to travel. I'm going to do this, hang out with my grandkids. No one goes, I'm going to help care for my parents. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's not a long-term goal, but I think as you get closer, you realize, okay, my parents are still alive, and depending, some are, spry and with it until into their 90s or some beyond. But most, start to deteriorate. That's the way of most life. So as you see them start to slip, you start to think, okay, what's the plan? You and your siblings, if you have any, will start to discuss, okay, mom's getting forgetful. She runs stop signs and red lights sometimes. We're going to have to take the car away.
Yeah.
Whatever those kind of issues come up, and you talk it through and decide, is she going to live with one of us? Is she going to live with each of us, 3 months out of the year? Are we going to put her in a home? Gosh, that sounds terrible. But,
But sometimes it's the best choice.
Yeah. Make accommodations for her at a senior living facility.
Yeah, and Sarah and I are kind of in a holding pattern. And I know that sounds rude, but with my parents in their mid-70s, or early to mid-70s, sometime in the next 10 to 15 years, more than likely, we're going to shift into caring for our parents. So what are our obligations and moral responsibilities as believers? Oddly enough, this came up in a sideways way in an advice column in the Washington Post.
Oh.
It was a Dear Carolyn, because there's a Dear Everybody now, but nonetheless, a very specific situation came up. Here's what a woman wrote to Carolyn at the Washington Post. My father is in his late 80s and fairly self-sufficient, but still needs support. My mother, also in her 80s, has balance, significant hearing, and minor memory issues. My brother has been their primary support, and I'm truly grateful for everything he does. This arrangement has worked largely because my parents have financially supported him for many years, and he does not work or have family of his own. In contrast, I work full-time, am married, and have children. My role in my parents' care has mainly been to visit, take them to doctor's appointments if requested, and host all the holidays. I feel like I should visit more, but life commitments often get in the way. My father and brother confronted me to say I wasn't contributing enough to my parents' care. I offered to pay for a caregiver, explore assisted living options, or make modifications to their home to ease their living situation. All my suggestions were dismissed. They told me my job was unimportant and insisted it was my moral duty as the daughter to care for them personally rather than delegate the responsibility to others. My father has been texting me articles about this duty, and I'm heartbroken that my father feels I'm failing him.
Yeah, my heart goes out to her. I'm frustrated at the father because I'm probably closer to his position, and I'm thinking, you goofball, what, could you find any more divisive way to wedge between you and your daughter?
But he's made it a moral issue, so in his mind, he's on the moral high ground.
Yeah.
Right. He's not
in his
being petty.
Deteriorating mind.
Isn't he though? I mean, he's using a guilt trip to get what he wants, which is generally not. We just talked about going into a conversation asking what you want. That's not a good way to preserve your relationship.
And yet, in certain cultures in the world, the idea that a dad would insist that his children care for him would be like, well, of course. What's the problem here?
I do wonder if there's maybe some cultural background we're missing, because they specifically said that as the daughter, it's her duty, which, I mean, why isn't it the son's duty? Why can't they each contribute as they're able? And then it's like, well, what about her duties as a mother? Those are also important. Well,
to add to the spiciness of this particular situation, she said her brother and her have not had a real close relationship over the years. She says, it's clear he harbors deep resentment towards me.
That's hard.
And as Carolyn wrote, it's like, well, duh. He gave up his entire life to care for your parents.
Okay. Now, see,
that was his choice.
That's more than I understood from it.
He doesn't work, doesn't have a family, cares for his parents full time, and they support him.
Right. I read it as, gosh, how does this guy get along in life if he's never worked?
That's right.
And never got married? Ultimate selfishness, leeching off his parents for his entire life, and now, about time, he's going to repay them by probably staying in their home and, caring for them, continuing his way of, I don't have to pay for my life because you're going to pay for my life.
Yeah, this whole situation is just weird. I don't understand how we can just not have a job. I mean, if he doesn't have a job, if he doesn't have a family, I mean, I'm not saying the sister shouldn't help out and do what she can, but it sounds pretty clear. She has a family that she has to support. He somehow has some setup where he has all the free time to care for them.
And I believe she has done well to make offers. She has extra finances, apparently, so I can help modify your home to make it more comfortable and more safe for you to live there. I can pay for a caregiver to come in if brother needs time to do whatever he does in his free time, not working and not caring for them. And then, so she's made offers. They're narrowed in on one specific thing. Your job is not important. Bad value judgment on their part, but that's the way they're going. And your prime responsibility is to be here personally caring for us. I don't know if they're even in the same city.
Is there a world in which, though, that her father could look at her and see that she's valuing her work over him?
Oh, yeah. There are selfish people in the world who will do that.
That's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Well, because, I could give wider context, but the scripture indicates that if you don't care for your own family, you're worse than an unbeliever. Mm-hmm. And the support and acts that was offered to widows was only for those who didn't have people to care for them. Mm-hmm. Like if you had if you had adult children or whatever, the expectation was that they would care for you. Now, right. Of course, that was an entirely different economic and social structure than what we have here. And I'm not saying I disagree with you, Ron. I'm just for the sake of conversation.
Sure.
What I want to get to in just a minute here, after we take a quick break, is the core of the issue here of the disagreement, which is the father believes it's his daughter's moral duty to care for him personally. Like that children have a moral duty to care personally for their aging parents. To what extent is that accurate? To what extent is that moral obligation accurate for a Christian? 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255.
Let's see, if something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard joining MediShare can save you or your family up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true. People are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. MediShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network, so yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes a very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Parents, youth pastors, are you looking for a life-changing opportunity for your teens this summer? The Experience Jesus Conference, June 23rd through 28th at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, isn't just another event. It's a 5-day experience where high school students learn to share their faith on the streets of Chicago.
XJ grounded my faith and inspired me to share the gospel.
Register now at moodyconferences.com/XJ. Early bird rates end April 30th.
4 out of 5 scuba diving pizza delivery men recommend listening to Mornings with Brian. The other one says Brian's humor is a little too cheesy for his taste. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
$719 WCRF, Mornings with Brian. It's an issue that everyone has to face at some point, or most people do. It's caring for aging parents as an adult. Mm-hmm. And it is a growing problem in our society, and I think a common issue that people really struggle with. It can create stress on a marriage, and it's something people don't really think about as they get close to retirement age, caring for their aging parents.
Yeah, often you put it off until it's imminent, the point where mom and or dad can't live on their own anymore, and then you've got to face the decision. It should be something that you at least bring up from time to time and say, hey, now that the kids are gone, we've got a spare bedroom or two. What would you think if the time came, mom or dad came and lived with us?
Yeah, and I don't know what your experience has been, but it's one of those where Sarah and I have looked at each other and said, with my grandmother, she had to almost be compelled to leave her home.
Oh, yeah, it's difficult.
And we look at each other and we go, how do we avoid doing that to our kids? Because it seems inevitable that there's very few elderly who are proactive in this area. Like who go, I don't know, maybe I'm slowing down a bit. Maybe I ought to make some decisions before I'm forced out. Because the forcing is where all the emotional turmoil goes.
It's traumatizing for everybody.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, it seems almost inevitable that part of aging is getting stubborn and refusing to be proactive. I don't.
I mean, I've seen this happen with a couple family members, and it really is hard. And your heart breaks for them because they don't want to acknowledge that. I mean, I'm sure losing your independence is huge. They don't want to acknowledge that they can't do something. They don't want to acknowledge that they have to leave the house they've lived in for 30, 40, 50 years. But it really is hard on the rest of the family, too, to be worried about you and to see you decline. And they don't want to take you out of your home either, but sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah, and it's also defining what a home is. Like my grandmother's problem, it seems harsh. Forgive me, Grandma, that she can't hear me, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
They lived in their house for 40 years. She was far too attached to her home.
Mm-hmm.
As a follower of Christ, who cares where you live?
Yeah, but you've got the memories of 40 years of raising children and your marriage, and every room you walk around and you're like, oh, I remember when little Mark would play in this room. Or
so good. Perfect response would be then infuriate older Mark by making him get the police to force you out of the house. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Like I understand the sentiment of what you're saying. But I've had to be deliberate with my wife about, like, how are we going to not get so attached to this place that we end up ruining our children by making them, like, call the authorities to get us to leave.
Or having you declared incompetent by, I think there's like a doctor and a lawyer that have to do that. No one wants to do that.
My dad had to do that with his father. My mother had to get with her mom, a social worker from the county to come in and essentially say, you can't live here by yourself.
Yeah.
That was very traumatizing. And all that tied to a Dear Carolyn article we found in the Washington Post, where a woman basically, it's complicated, but at the end of the day, she and her dad disagree about a fundamental principle. Her dad thinks it's her moral duty to personally care for him. He doesn't think she ought to be delegating his care to other people.
And I don't think he should be delegating what she can and can't provide for him. Like, listen, I think that kids, to the best of their ability, should provide care for their parents. I don't think it's right to just say you're going to a nursing home unless it's necessary because you have such medical needs that you cannot be cared for in your home. But there are circumstances in which the kids just cannot, for financial reasons. Maybe they've got their own kids. I know that's this woman's situation. I think you do. There is a reasonable expectation that your kids should provide something, but I don't think you get to say what that something is. He's just asking a lot, and he does have 2 children. So I also take issue with the fact he's putting all of this on one of them.
Yeah. I will say that there's part of me, hopefully it's the Christ follower part, that you can help me evaluate that's a little uncomfortable with the American cultural trend of delegating care of the elderly to other people.
Yeah, I agree. I think my personal philosophy on care for aging parents, I think it lies somewhere in between the American way of just they go into a nursing home and we maybe visit them once a week, and how some other cultures might do it, which is mom and dad get full care, no question. Regardless of what a strain this puts on our family, whether this is even a good situation for mom and dad, because maybe they're not healthy enough to live in a home like this.
Yeah, I know somebody, he was very open about it on the radio, so I can say a former vice president of Moody Radio, when his aging parents began to struggle living on their own, everybody moved into a new, larger place. And the parents lived with their adult son and his family. And it prolonged their independence, quote unquote, because they were living with their son and grandchildren. But he felt like there was a dare I say, moral obligation that when he's able, in whatever way he's able, to give his parents a higher quality of life and not delegate their care to somebody else.
Right.
Now, he wasn't doing like memory care, skilled nursing care. I'm not talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about they were aging and it was getting harder to live on their own.
Right.
And I think that's great if you can do that.
There's something admirable about that.
Yeah.
I just don't even know that enough people consider it as an option.
Mhm.
I'm not saying the dad here in the story is right, that it's her moral duty to care for him personally. But I don't know that she ought to also be able to get away with delegating all of it with money.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I'd be curious to know, does she live in the same city or nearby? Is Dad's imposition also saying, not only is your job not important, your life basically is unimportant. Uproot everything and move so you can be here and personally take care of me. There's questions about the extremity of his ask.
Is there a world in which, though, it might be best if they picked up and moved to maybe combine resources with parents to care for them, as opposed to write a check?
Oh, yeah, I think there's situations where that makes sense and is the best course of action. And I don't know enough about this woman's specific situation to be able to say what they should or shouldn't do.
Yeah, it's always hard in these things because you never have the whole story.
Yeah, I mean, because I can go either way, where it does, on one hand, it does seem like she's being selfish, but maybe there's things I don't know about where she is completely unable to do more than she's offering. We don't know. So I think you should offer what help you can, but I also don't think, like I said before, I don't think Dad should be dictating what help he's willing to accept.
Mm-hmm. Chef Ken wrote into us and said, I moved home from Florida to care for my parents. Dad passed and Mom and I still live together, so Mom can still live independently. I have to help Mom in and out of bed, etc., cook, clean. My payoff, and not one that was expected, but I now have a house that's paid for because I moved back.
Aww.
Right. And it sounds like Chef Ken is a single man with no children, so that works well in his life situation. If you were married with 3 teenagers and you're trying to, care for your parent, plus you know how running children runs you ragged weeknights and weekends, there's a lot that's going on, and I don't know if a person could do that.
Yeah, and when I look at love of neighbor in Scripture, I look at a perhaps outrageously generous love. When you look at the parable of the Good Samaritan, you see a man who, with a complete stranger, not only takes time to help him and care for him, but sets up an open tab at the inn to make sure the guy's cared for,
and then goes about his life.
Right, which is a very good point.
He does not stay there and live with the guy till he passes.
But and it's a very good point, Ron. My question, though, is one, not of exactly how to handle this, but more of leaning. Mm-hmm. I think perhaps the American cultural leaning is toward personally doing less, when I wonder if the Christian moral leaning would be to personally doing more. Like, what kind of love is it for parent and honor for parent if the more that you're doing is just simply paying for things? Now, I'm not saying there's you do it all personally, but ought we not lean toward a tangible love, a visit more? Not necessarily move in, visit more. If it's possible, move in.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? I think our cultural tendency perhaps leans the wrong way. You feel better about the leaning as opposed to the committing?
Yes. I would love it if the dynamic could work, that dad and brother and sister could have a reasoned, comfortable conversation about what's happening now, what dad would like to see happen, the frustrations brother may be feeling, what you foresee in the future. Dad, are you doing well, or are you slipping fast? But it sounds like there's an animosity there that would be hard to have that conversation.
Well, and it's one of the reasons we talk in the show so much about emotional health, because I think it's so important for us as believers to work out our emotional and relational health throughout life, so that when you encounter difficulties like this, they're more endurable, as opposed to suddenly your dad is making demands of you and your brother's upset with you and you don't know what to do. Yeah, you're right, Ron. Talk about it, for goodness sakes.
Hopefully.
Draw some personal boundaries, but I don't know. Maybe there is a way for her to lean in a little more and be present more, but not give up her entire life.
Right.
And again, it's what my wife and I are wrestling with now is our parents' age. They're independent. They're fine. But how do we lean towards tangible care when possible? Like personal, one-on-one care when possible. I don't know because my parents and my in-laws live in Minnesota. So it's going to be a challenge.
You're not going to give up your job and move back to Minnesota.
No, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Lord Jesus, I hope not. But I want to be open to not being able to just relegate my parents and in-laws to whatever their fate may be if from a distance. You know what I mean? I don't have a perfect answer here. I just think the Christian leaning is towards tangible care whenever possible. Do your best. All right, that's going to do it for now. Perhaps this will be something we revisit on Friday. I know a bunch of text messages were coming in. Sorry we couldn't get to them all. With Lauren out, it's hard to keep up with all the plate spinning because I can only do one thing at a time. Right, Daria?
Sometimes not even that.
That's true. 7:31, we're up against quick break. More to come here on WCRF.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Claire from Trinity Debt Management. I'm a counselor, and the reason that I love working for Trinity is because I get to help folks with one of the hardest problems a family can face, and that's financial difficulties. In this day and age, everything is going up. You have higher utilities, higher grocery bills, higher fuel, and those credit card interest rates have gone up as well. We can help you with that. We can help you get lower interest rates, lower monthly payments. In just a few minutes, we put together a plan that gets you out of debt and keeps you out of debt. I love my job. It's a great program and a very smart way to find debt relief.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
I'm Claire, a Trinity counselor. Call me and become debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
There's joy in the journey. It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studio. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland. In just a few moments, I've got 4 silly ways to keep marriage fun. We'll see if they actually would work, though, in a few moments. But before we get there, we have a Mother's Day giveaway going. Mother's Day is coming up real soon here, and you could make the day for mom perfectly cared for at zero expense to you. Our Mother's Day giveaway from Moody Radio includes a spa gift card and a restaurant gift card. Mom could go to the spa and a restaurant.
Nice.
Goodness gracious, you ought to register for your chance to win this thing. What do you have to lose? Text the word MOM to 440-546-2255. Text MOM to 440-546-2255. We'll send you back a link to get registered, and you can do that through Sunday, May 11th.
Correct.
Sunday, May 11th. I said Friday, May 11th before, and that's not a thing.
No.
At least not this calendar
Not this
year.
year.
Yeah. Okay, so my experience with my wife, Sarah, has been, when we were first married, this was back when VHSs were cool, Daria.
I remember those.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, curious. we got a membership to the video store. The
Blockbuster?
local, no, not Blockbuster, because I had some late fees there. We didn't go back. So
You probably still owe them.
I do, but they're
They're
gone.
not around.
Yeah,
There's like one in Utah, I think.
Yeah. So there was a local one, Video Something, and you could pay us like a certain number of dollars a month for unlimited rentals.
Cool.
So we rented a lot of movies. We were having fun. We went out. She'd go dancing. I was in bands. We had a lot of fun.
Okay.
And then we had kids. And then the fun stopped. And then and we moved away from family. We had no babysitters for a decade, as the kids were growing up. And pretty soon, like, the silly fun was totally gone because all we had time for was, did you get groceries? Oh, I thought I was, wait, where's the kid? Where's the drive here, drive there?
Yeah.
Did you and Dana have that phase where suddenly you weren't having fun anymore? Or did you always keep it silly?
When I married Dana, she had 2 kids.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, her husband had been killed in a construction accident. So I stepped right into the stage of, running and gunning, Well, not so much running because the kids were still pretty young, but
you guys are you've always been a little silly.
I'd like to think so.
How have you kept that going?
Partly it's my personality, to make fun of, tense situations or things that are goofy, and she falls into that as well.
Like you have to share for folks who haven't heard it about the fly in your kitchen. This is a thing that I wish I had. It's so funny.
My wife, her occupation is she's a self-employed house cleaner. So she runs up her own clients and then tends to keep them for a very long time. But when the kids were younger, teenage, my oldest son, Ryan, who's now 40, he saw a fly on the wall and he swatted at it and it didn't move. And then he shouted and kind of jumped at it.
He shouted at the fly.
And it didn't move. And he's thinking, this is either a really brave fly or
really
it's
dumb
asleep.
fly.
So he starts reaching up real close to it and realizes it's not moving. It's dead.
Clung to the wall.
Yes. So he immediately makes this statement that we can not knock that fly down. Let's wait and see how long it can stay. And it's been there for like 20 years.
You've seen it, right, Daria?
Yes, they painted around it when they redid the kitchen.
Yeah. There's a little, like a 1-inch square that Dana just went right around it because she can't paint the fly.
And so with joy and laughter, the first time I went over there, Dana showed me the fly on the wall. And it was you do have a fly on the wall.
Yes.
And that's a riot, a fun, silly thing. And I like that you guys can do that. And so there's the New York Times gave 4 silly ways to keep marriage fun because I think for a good, solid Christian marriage to thrive, you can't get rid of the fun. You can't be clinical and logistical all the time. So let's see what you guys think of these. One of them, cultivate inside jokes.
See, I like that, but you can't cultivate inside jokes. They just happen.
Right.
Yeah. Let's make an inside joke. But like for you guys, your fly.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that is.
And once those inside jokes happen, that's when you cultivate it. You keep them alive. You use them from time to time. Oftentimes for us, it's movie quotes.
Oh, is it? Okay.
From Dumb and Dumber. Our pets' heads are falling off. So if we're, like, you cut your thumb and I had a knee replacement and our pets' heads are falling off, we'll run things like that.
Oh, that's great, Ron. Yeah, they gave a couple examples here. You can cultivate your own lighthearted language, one person said. She and her husband have so many nicknames for each other, they rarely call each other by their given names. That can keep things fun. And let's see, gags are another way to keep things light and fun. For years, this one woman said, Tom and I had a running joke involving Baby Doll. It's a plastic infant our daughter had covered with magic marker tattoos.
Okay.
Over the years, Baby Doll had grown grimy and sinister looking. So she'd position Baby Doll in various poses in the fridge, in the shower, just to give Tom a scare.
Yes.
We have this battle going on right now over dryer sheets. So we can't, we have to be very careful about when we do laundry, making sure the dryer sheets get thrown away immediately because we have a cat that likes to chew on them. But
cats are so weird.
Sometimes we're feeling lazy, or specifically I was feeling lazy. So I just started stuffing them all in Jimmy's sock drawer. And so now it's a battle to see who can put more dryer sheets in the other sock drawer.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's a silly little gag. It's an inside joke. Oh, that's so great. I love that. What do we have? We have a couple of inside jokes in the family. One of them is the name Jimmy. I refuse to learn boyfriend names because, and I tell my daughters I care about them, not their random boyfriends. Sure. And so someday I'll care about whoever he is when he finally arrives, the man that you're going to marry. But until then, I just call him Jimmy. And so.
And then I showed up and I'm actually married to a Jimmy.
Yeah, that makes it awkward. But I can actually look at my daughters and be like, hey, how's Jimmy doing? And they'll be like, oh, he's good.
They just know now.
Yeah, it's kind of our little inside joke. But I think it's actually a fun little thing to do. Have your own little gags and inside jokes. That's fun. Speaking of dryer sheets, side note, when I was in college and learning how to do laundry, I forgot to check for the dryer sheet once. And I remember I was a goody two-shoes tryhard. So I was sitting in the front of a large class.
Of course you were.
And I realized in my undergrad that my back is itchy.
Yes.
I reach in, there's a dryer sheet in my shirt.
You just pulled it out.
No. I was too embarrassed. I left it there because I couldn't possibly live with the embarrassment of pulling out a dryer sheet from my shirt in the front of the class.
Yes. I've had that in high school before but I pulled it out. I'm like, what the heck is this? And then you get it out and you realize, oh, it's a dryer sheet. Now what do I do with it?
Another way to keep marriage fun, send a silly text. One woman said, I sometimes try to find the most obscure emoji to send to her husband, Tom, without comment, like a lobster or a CD. You're laughing. It's weird, but, just imagine if you
that
just...
could be fun.
There's a lot of emojis out there. Okay. She says, another example, a friend of hers texts her husband, who's frequently out of town for work, goofy pictures of their dog to make him laugh. Sometimes it's a close-up of the dog huffing her food. Other times it would be, they draw a funny hat on it with the Apple app.
Okay.
It's the dog, and I drew a hat on it. And it's just randomly, just to keep them laughing.
Yeah, that's cute.
You guys do anything like that? Funny texting things?
Not like that, but I think sometimes, I might say something or type something funny in a message.
Yeah, we do a lot of back and forth pictures and videos of the cats.
That'll do it.
Jimmy sent me one just the other day. I was out to coffee with a friend, and I just get with no context. Our cat had stolen this foam insulation piece we shove under one of the doors in the house, and he'd somehow gotten it, was just carrying it around, and would not give it back to Jimmy.
How about they say another silly thing to do is plan a surprise date?
I don't know how that would work when you're married.
Yeah, especially if your spouse doesn't like surprises.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it's like, which restaurant is it going to be? I have a hard time getting creative outside of restaurants and movies for dates.
Right. And you have to know each other's schedule and be open enough that for example, that she isn't realizing that you've got the night off, so she's going to tackle this project that she's been waiting for an opportunity to.
Maybe it means like the date. It's like not the fact you're going on a date as a surprise, but what you end up doing as a surprise.
Yeah,
that would work.
I guess, I mean, if you want, I think you could maybe plan a nice dinner when the other gets home. Have that waiting. That could be a nice surprise.
I'm not sure how that makes it silly, but
it's important.
It makes it fun.
Mm-hmm.
The final suggestion, silly things to keep marriage fun, make a game out of a mundane situation. Like one person says what they do is they make a game out of, let's see who can make the most creative dish using only ingredients we already have in the fridge and the pantry.
Then you turn to ChatGPT to figure out what would go together.
And then there's extra dishes because you have two people making two sets of dishes.
For somebody, that's going to be a big hit. For us, clearly
I'm just
not.
thinking about the dishes.
Yeah, if you're a foodie and you like to create food, that'd be great. But for me, it would waste whatever I put together because I would inevitably mix two things that don't go.
You'd be like a little boy making a sludge in a bucket. Give me some ketchup and worms.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve texted. He said, at times when I'm at the store with my wife, I walk up to her and ask her, "Hey, you here with anybody? Can I take you home?"
It reminds me of what Eddie did to Lauren after they got married.
You come here often? So, yeah, I think the key being keep it fun because life can get so intense and life can get so difficult. Why not allow a little bit of laughter now and again just to keep your connection going?
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps it's leaving a fly on the wall for 20 years.
Could be.
You should send a picture of that to Daria so we can get that on social.
Okay.
And I can't believe it still exists 20 years later.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's just a hollowed shell of a mummified fly now.
It's got to be. In fact, I could probably zoom in, see how much of a close-up I could get.
Let's do it. Okay. 7:48 on WCRF. A crazy marriage trend for one couple at least. Is this an actual thing? I don't know. We're going to talk about it in just a minute.
There are many ways to say,
I love you, Mom. I love you, Mommy. I love you, Mom.
we have an idea. Enter our Moments with Mom contest for a chance to give your mom
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
7:54. Join us at the upcoming Cleveland Leadership Prayer Breakfast. You can actually literally join us at our table.
Yes.
We here at WCRF are going to have a table or two, and we're going to have the morning show team there, and you could join us. We're giving away a pair of tickets to a couple of different people. So you could register for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Cleveland Leadership Prayer Breakfast. It's May 8th at the IX Center. May 8th, IX Center, featuring their speaker. Every year their speakers are amazing. This year it's Jeff Struker. He is an Army vet, and he was a Ranger and part of the Battle of Mogadishu, which, by the way, was featured in the film Black Hawk Down.
Yes. He's in the Ranger Hall of Fame. Now, can you imagine just being a Ranger is worthy of being merited and awarded?
Yeah.
But beyond that, he is among the elite of the elite, the Ranger Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and he's a great speaker, and he'll share an incredible testimony. Bring your unsaved friends to the Cleveland Leadership Prayer Breakfast. To enter for your chance to win a pair of tickets from us, to hang out with us, text the word breakfast to 440-546-2255. Text breakfast to 440-546-2255. We've been talking about marriage this half hour. Couldn't resist this one. From the Washington Post, Jeff Stein on X, I guess is what we call it now, posted this, and I don't know what to do with it. I'd love your reaction. Several months ago, he writes, a couple who we are friends with said they don't sleep on the same side of the bed every night. As in, every night when they go to bed, they don't know who will sleep on which side.
Wow.
I think I've actually heard this before.
What?
Yeah, I'm always on the side closest to the door.
What? Why? To defend? Like, so you'll be murdered first? Is that the...
Well, that's, yeah. One is...
Dan, an extra 0.2 seconds.
One is, if there is a sound of someone breaking in, I'm going to be the first one to respond. There was some with the kids, but it didn't matter. They would see me and they'd go around to the other side when they were young.
Yeah, and that was Sarah's reason. She wanted the kids to wake me up. So I was like, fine, I'll sleep by the door. They walk around it. They see me, walk around, wake her up.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
See, I need familiarity to fall asleep. I don't think I would sleep well if I was constantly swapping sides of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me that this person truly did observe something insane. A couple that doesn't know which side of the bed they'd sleep on each night.
If it works for them.
Yeah, I mean,
why does it work for them?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them. It's weird for sure, but when you think about it, it's like, why are we married to our sides of the bed? Why is that a thing?
Because it's better.
But why is it better? Who says it's better?
Me.
Do you speak for everybody?
What do you do when you go to a hotel and you got a queen size bed? Which side are you going to sleep on?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't think about it. First of all, I'm not in hotels very often, but I just kind of, that side looks good, and I just sleep on that side.
I guess I'm neurotic. I figure out which side is my side.
Yeah. I just start at the door, and the first bed I come to, okay, that's where I'm going to sleep.
Oh, is that what you do?
Yeah.
I guess I'm super weird. I actually orient myself to go, okay, which wall would this be? And because I know my body has that routine of which side to sleep on. So even if the nightstand's on the other side, I don't care.
Okay.
Is that weird?
I don't know.
Why are you not as offended as I want you to be about this couple that's shifting?
I wouldn't do it, but...
What would you do if you go in the bedroom and Jimmy's on your side of the bed?
I'd wake him up and say, get off my side.
Exactly. What about you with Dana?
Yeah, I'd probably do the same. I'd be like, what are you doing?
Wake up, honey. Move.
What's wrong? Did something get spilled over there?
Would you like me to sleep on the couch? Is that what you'd like?
Right.
How could I sleep on that side? Wild. Yeah, I wonder if maybe this couple is sociopaths or something.
Now, could you take that a step further and never be sure which, like assuming you're a 2-car family, we have her car and my car. What if,
no,
just randomly take her car?
No.
And she'd be stuck with mine.
No. I can't imagine that. We have assigned cars.
Right. So do we.
And it's funny, though, from Daria's point earlier, it's like, why do we do, like, we don't have to do that. You go, oh, my wife always gets the new car. Well, because you didn't drive it. You have keys.
I'll tell you this too. So, I sleep on the same side of the bed every night, but my side has not been the same side we've had since we've gotten married. And I've learned that that's weird. I mean, we've moved a lot. And so I don't associate like this is my side of the bed forever. It's just when we get in there, what feels right, which side do I want? And then that becomes my side.
But Daria gets to establish where Jimmy is at the end of the day. It's like, hold on, Jimmy. I'm going in first. I declare this is my side.
I don't know how we decided it, but every house we've been in, I've been on a different side of the bed.
But it sounds like it's because of you, not because of Jimmy.
We just go in and we just put our pillows down and we go to sleep. There's not any conversation about it.
Not me. No, there's a side. It's been assigned. I don't know how it got assigned.
I've been on both sides of the bed in my 4 years of marriage.
I'm trying to remember if I've been on the other side. I have a side. It's my spot. Don't take it. I'm neurotic. Okay, I get it.
A little bit.
I won't take it.
Please don't, Ron. I hope we're never in a scenario where that has to be a problem. All right, it's 8 o'clock. It's time for Ron's News. When we come back, our friend Glenn Deurr from Cedarville University will join us to talk all things about the death of the Pope and the Vatican. Think about geopolitically what this means for the future.
Loving God with our hearts and our minds. It's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios on Moody Radio Cleveland. WCRF Cleveland. WVMS Sandusky. WVML Millersburg. WVMN Newcastle. WVME Meadville. WVMU Ashtabula. And with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The Vatican says Pope Francis died of a stroke. It's 8:01. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. They've released an announcement saying the stroke led to a coma and to irreversible cardiocirculatory collapse. The 88-year-old pontiff was recovering from double pneumonia, which caused respiratory issues and kept him hospitalized earlier this year for more than a month. Governor Mike DeWine announced the expansion of the Mobile Response and Stabilization Services program yesterday. The initiative allows mental health professionals to meet someone who is in crisis wherever they are within an hour to de-escalate the situation and offer support. The service is aimed at individuals who are age 20 or younger. After nearly a quarter century of overseeing day-to-day operations for Shaker Heights, Chief Administrative Officer Jerry Chaikin will be retiring later this year. Cleveland.com reports Chaikin oversees the work of 12 departments comprising 300 full-time staff with a total annual budget of $84 million. In sports, the Guardians took down the Yankees 6-4, and the NCAA Division I Board of Directors has proposed deleting 153 rules from its handbook, which would allow schools to provide direct financial payments to players, including for use of their name, image, and likeness. The rules are intended to bring clarity and stability to the NIL environment for all Division I schools. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Mostly sunny today. Highs in the mid-60s. At last check, cloudy skies. It's 53 degrees in Cleveland. Akron, 50 degrees. Lorain and Elyria, 53.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
For the past 50 years, Earth Day has been celebrated by millions of people. In fact, billions of people around the globe every April 22nd. The point is to join together in promoting awareness for the health of our environment. Christians can and should celebrate Earth Day because it provides an opportunity to express gratitude for God's creation, recommit to stewardship, and worship the God who created and cares for the earth. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:03. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine Studio. It's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255.
888-888-8855. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Maverick City Music on WCRF. It's 8:08, and I'll tell you what, Pope Francis passed away. We certainly send our condolences and our prayers to our Roman Catholic friends listening. We're an evangelical station, but I tell you what, this happening, this historical event of his passing is certainly something that affects the world.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about it here, and we're going to do so with our friend Dr. Glenn Deurr. He's a professor of international studies at Cedarville University. Welcome back to the show.
It's great to be with you.
Let's start off with, I think, the thing that perhaps is most confusing for people about the papacy. Tell me about the status of Vatican City. Is Vatican City, is that a country, a nation state? What is that?
That's a fantastic question, and it is hard to know. I have been there. It is a very, very small landmass, and its permanent population is around 800 people. So it is very, very small. It is not a member state of the United Nations, but it does have a status within the UN as an observer state. And so it is given diplomatic specializations within the UN. It does have a seat at the table. It does not have a vote at the General Assembly. There is no passport check to enter, for example, but it is considered technically a separate territory, even though it's entirely contained within the city of Rome.
Could it be called a country, or is that not the right label?
Some people do. I mean, if I'm asked to say, hey, how many countries have you visited? I do include Vatican City in there, but it is not a formal member state of the UN. But then when we think about, the United States has formal diplomatic relations with Vatican City, that in essence makes it a country. But it does have this nebulous middle ground of is it a country, is it not a country?
So we have an ambassador, a United States ambassador to the Vatican.
Correct.
I don't know that many people realize that because, yesterday when the news broke that President and First Lady Melania Trump are going to be headed to the funeral for Pope Francis, somebody in my household was like, why? I said, well, he's technically the head of state. So what is the role of the Pope outside of his spiritual role in the Roman Catholic Church? Would you categorize him as the head of state?
He does have that technical role as head of Vatican City. Again, it's a very, very small landmass, very, very small permanent population. There's no formal border check. You can walk in and out very easily. You can walk around Vatican City within 15 minutes. In most of the public places, there are some places that are cordoned off for specific Catholic purposes, but it's kind of a neat historical abnormality, and it does elevate the Catholic Church within Rome, its position. Historically, it's been a larger landmass, technically known as the Papal States, but once Italy was unified, beginning in 1861, where the Kingdom of Piedmont, Sardinia, and the Kingdom of Two Sicilies joined in what's called Risorgimento. Other pieces were added when Austria was defeated in 1866. We have a good chunk of the northeast of Italy that is added then. And then eventually in 1871, all of Rome, the Papal States, fall under Italy. And so Italy became a formal unified country by 1871, but Vatican City has always retained this technically independent status, albeit within Rome and under the protection of the Italian state, etc.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so there is some sort of protected status, yet independent. So the Vatican really controls that landmass within the city of Rome. And so Rome and Italy have ceded that land to them in a formal sense?
When Italy gained its independence in 1871, it did so in a very similar time to Germany in 1871 as well. Sorry, Italy was 1861, but it took about a decade. And so what we have here is the end of the aftermath of the Holy Roman Empire, an empire that existed for about 1,000 years. There was a lot of different disparate pieces. Switzerland was largely carved out. We have Austria. We also, as I mentioned, have Germany that fought 3 successive wars against Denmark, Austria, and France in order to unify by 1871. And then with Italy, it was a similar pattern. But we do have some of the leftovers, I shouldn't call it leftover, but it's kind of entities that never made it within one of the largest states. And so Liechtenstein, for example, retains its independence. San Marino in the same way. And Vatican City is also in that pod of countries that are considered micro-states where they can manage their own internal affairs. But they do need an outside protection because otherwise, well, they'll get gobbled up by a larger neighbor, as we saw with World War I and particularly World War II, when Nazi Germany took over a lot of land masses, essentially annexing them. That's what keeps the protected status of a Vatican City or San Marino or Liechtenstein. It does require the favor of its neighbors as well, and a level of protection. We also have the Swiss Guards in Vatican City that are formally connected to protecting the papacy, but in and of itself, it does require the support of the Italian government and Italian military.
So as Pope Francis's funeral is, I'm assuming, going to be broadcast around the world, to what extent will countries around the world treat this as a state funeral and send a representative? Most, well, I shouldn't say most, but many are sending the president. So Javier Milei of Argentina, for example, Pope Francis was from Argentina, and so he's attending. As you noted, President Donald Trump and Melania Trump are both attending. Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, is front and center in this type of situation because of the connection to Italy. But a lot of countries are sending the former president or a vice president or some high-ranking official in order to pay respects, because it is a significant deal. And the Roman Catholic Church is approximately 1.3 to 1.4 billion people out of 8.1 billion in the world. Whether or not all are practicing, whether or not all have support for the Pope. I mean, some of that's political, some of that's a reading of Scripture, these types of things. But it is a significant deal because the Catholic Church is a very sizable entity in the world, and the Pope is the head of the Church. It's 8:16. You're listening to Mornings with Brian on WCRF. Our guest is Dr. Glenn Deurr, professor of international studies at Cedarville University. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the political influence of the Roman Catholic Church and the significance and legacy of Pope Francis and what we can expect, perhaps, in the next Pope.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
2 Timothy 1:7. For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. Hi, I'm Steve Wick, producer of Bold Steps with Dr. Mark Jobe.
I pray you will take your next bold step forward in God.
Our Bold Steps app will challenge and help you be the authentic you God wants you to be. Download the Bold Steps app at moodyradio.org or from your app store.
From the world of the best-selling illustrated edition of Little Pilgrim's Progress comes a brand new adventure for early readers. The King's Cadets and Little Joe follows three young rabbit brothers as they dream of becoming soldiers of the King. They set off on daring missions, learning courage, wisdom, and faith along the way. Parents and grandparents will love sharing these stories and woodland illustrations with their little ones. Order The King's Cadets and Little Joe today at moodybooks.org.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
8:18 WCRF. Our guest is Dr. Glenn Deurr, professor of international studies at Cedarville University. We're talking about the big news story of perhaps of the entire year is what this will be, the passing of Pope Francis. Before we get to his personal legacy, to what extent do you think that the papacy today in 2025 is a political influence globally?
Historically, not nearly as much as it was. In class, for example, I recently covered Pope Innocent III from the very early 13th century, who really tried to consolidate the spiritual power of the Roman Catholic Church with political power of the Holy Roman Empire, was heavily involved in England and France and a range of European countries. And so from that point, really, in the 13th century, there was a lot of intertwinement of Pope with political power. That has changed very significantly, especially in the last couple of centuries, where it's much more of a spiritual role rather than a political role. But at this time in history, we have the significant rise of technology, in particular social media. And so while the role is not political per se, the ability to send a message or a tweet or some form of communication via social media does give the Pope very significant power. As I noted, it's a church of 1.3 plus billion people, and a lot of people will listen. The news cycle will pick it up when the Pope says something. And so in a way, it does have a more political role than it has had really in the last few centuries.
Now, when we look specifically at Pope Francis, how would you characterize his legacy? It doesn't even have to be spiritually. I mean, again, he's a world leader, a pseudo-leader. What would you say his legacy would be?
Well, he's been Pope for the last 12 years. And if we look through history, there's a good chance that when looking back, a lot of people will look at Pope John Paul II, that was Pope for 27 years. I think was loved pretty universally, even outside of the Roman Catholic Church. A lot of Protestants, evangelicals hold Pope John Paul II in high regard because he helped to end communism, and that was very, very significant. And so Francis will be remembered because he was in as Pope for 12 years. I think a lot of people will talk about him being the first Pope from the Western Hemisphere, first from South America in particular, which is noteworthy in and of itself. Picking the name Francis, I mean, he's Francis the First. That tells us something about his direction and position. He's also, because he's been in for a number of years, been able to pick the cardinals. There are some 252 cardinals. Only 135 of them have voting power to pick the next pope, but he has selected a good number of those, and there's a decent chance that the next pope will be someone that carries on his legacy. I think for his supporters, a lot of people will say he stood up for the poor, the marginalized. He did a lot to end or get the Catholic Church through the child abuse scandal. His detractors will say, he was probably overly political. Some will say that he did not push doctrinal purity within the church, wasn't strong enough in that area. And others will say as well that the child abuse scandal, while out of the news cycle, is really still a big issue that needs to be addressed. And so a legacy in a politicized era is one that will probably be mixed and dependent upon where one falls politically, and also it could be the direction of the church into the future as well, because Francis has, as I noted, a strong connection to many, many of the cardinals, and it could shape the Catholic Church moving forward into the rest of the 21st century.
Now, the whole world is about to be reintroduced to how a pope is chosen, and I think it's one of the more interesting political endeavors that one will see. Can you help us understand how the next pope is selected?
It is a fascinating process. So what's happening now is there's a funeral that's forthcoming. In context, in 2005, when Pope John Paul II died, 4 million people came to the Vatican.
Whoa.
And so that is something. I don't think it would quite be that number again, because John Paul II was loved even outside of the Catholic Church. But it's going to be significant even starting today, then funeral Saturday. There's a 9-day mourning period that has gone through the Catholic history, and so that will also occur. And so roughly 15 to 20 days from now, we will begin what's called a conclave, where the cardinals that are eligible to elect the next pope, and as I noted, there are 135 of them, they will begin a process within the Sistine Chapel itself of picking a leader. And so it's
from among themselves, right?
Yes, from among themselves. Theoretically, they could pick someone from the outside, but it's someone from the inside. When Francis was selected, it was a little over 24 hours. In the 20th century, no one took more than 5 days in terms of a selection process. But there are rounds of voting and rounds of making speeches, etc. Black smoke will be released from the stovepipe when a decision has not been made. 2/3 of the electing cardinals do have to come to a consensus, so it's a 2/3 vote in order to occur. But when they do pick, white smoke will be released and the name of the next pope released as well. And he'll also pick a papal name like Francis or Benedict XVI or Paul VI or John Paul II. Recent popes, it will be whatever name is picked from there. So we'll see. Chances are it will be within a few days that it occurs. Going back to the 13th century, Gregory X, the Pope, it took 3 years to elect him. So I do not see that happening. I don't think there's that kind of division. But there are pretty significant liberal and conservative wings within the cardinals of the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
So it could be a little bit as well. It could take some time.
To what extent, going into the selection of Francis, did people expect that he would be the choice?
I predicted him personally, and I think there was a decent consensus in the Catholic Church that it would be someone from outside of Europe. It's been a long time since there's been a pope from outside of Europe, and it was my sense that with the growth of the Roman Catholic Church, especially in South America, Africa, parts of Asia, for example, that would occur. And there's a pretty decent chance that the next pope, there are some significant candidates from the Philippines and Ghana, for example. But there are a number of Italian popes, and the number of cardinals from Italy is still, and Europe is still very significant. And so it could still shift the balance towards a European pope as well. There are 2 American cardinals that are electing. Very low chance that there'll be an American cardinal, but in a politicized era, that could become a factor as well, where one is put forward to get votes by other cardinals. That could happen. But we'll have to wait and see. It looks like the next pope will probably be in his 70s or 80s. Most of the main candidates are in their 70s.
Wow.
But there are surprises. There is a significant candidate from Italy who's 59, and some may opt for that because there can then be the greater likelihood of a long papacy and continuation within the Roman Catholic Church. It is always a delicate balance. So I mentioned John Paul II. There was John Paul I, who was pope for a month, and then he died. And so that is something to weigh up for cardinals, especially if they pick an older pope. That pope may not last too long, just death of natural causes. And so that's something that will be weighed up as they elect as well.
Is there any clear majority between the conservative and liberal wings of the Catholic Church right now?
Given that Francis himself has overseen significant installation of cardinals, the tilt is towards the more liberal side. But when there are candidates from places like the Philippines, Ghana, they're likely to be more conservative in some areas, even if they're viewed as more liberal in others, pushing causes of social justice, for example. So it's hard to know until someone's actually in control themselves as to what they'll do, what they'll push publicly. But there is seemingly a more liberal tilt within the Roman Catholic Church at this time because of Francis's influence.
Now, is there any pressure, do you think, internally to select a non-white pope? When you mentioned Philippines, West Africa, is there pressure there?
It's certainly to some degree, given the growth of the church and the power of the church. Luis Antonio Tagle is from the Philippines. He's well regarded within Francis's inner circle. Peter Turkson from Ghana in West Africa is the other major candidate. And that does feature into modern politics and modern decision making. But the church has long had its position in Europe, and I don't think it's going to be a huge point, but there will be, I think you're right, some level of pressure to say, okay, what kind of church are we? If an Italian pope is selected again, it will send a message. If a pope from Asia or Africa is selected, that too sends a message. And I think a lot of cardinals are cognizant of that and weighing that up.
Now, knowing that your educational institution and the one I work for are Protestant organizations, how would you characterize the current relationship between Roman Catholic and Protestants as a whole?
I think it's certainly better than in previous decades. When I was growing up in the UK, for example, it was during a period known as the Time of the Troubles, and there was significant sectarian violence between Catholics and Protestants. And there were other issues elsewhere in Europe. The good news is a lot of that has now changed, and a lot of that is more historical. The larger terrorist factions that would engage in violence have largely laid down their arms, and a lot of those decisions are made politically and at the ballot box now. And so in general, relations have certainly improved since the latter part of the 20th century. It's not to say that everything is perfect. There are doctrinal issues. We have passion and we stand in our positions for a reason. The number of sacraments, for example, is still a big point between Catholics and Protestants. But I think in general the relationship is better. And a lot less antagonistic than it's been in previous decades. And for that, I'm very thankful.
And now I think as a final question, somebody might be listening going, yeah, I mean, you guys are evangelicals. Why should we even care about the selection of a new pope? How would you answer that in your classroom or even here on the radio?
Sure. So on the one hand, the question is entirely valid. We're Protestants for a reason. We've picked our theology for a reason. We stand in this position. We read Scripture in our own language, and by ourselves, we can pray directly to the Lord rather than through an intercessor. All of these things matter a great deal. At the same time, the Catholic and Protestant churches both adhere to the Nicene Creed, for example. There are great points of overlap. And when we think about the persecution of believers, whether Catholics or Protestants in the world, it's an impact on both. And so in that sense, holding the Father, Son, Holy Ghost high, the Word of God high, points of agreement are all important, and places where Catholics and Protestants can work together and have some form of shared relationship in that, bearing in mind the important distinctions and doctrinal points that we hold dear. And so I think that's important doctrinally, and then culturally, it's a big event. The selection of a new pope, it will give a direction to the Roman Catholic Church. And my prayer is that the next pope stays strong on Scripture and holds it high and reads it word for word. And all of these things will be useful in the global public space.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for your expertise and insight. Again, that's Dr. Glenn Deurr here on WCRF, Moody Radio Cleveland. He is a professor of international studies at Cedarville University. I highly recommend you go check out their website. It's cedarville.edu. Again, cedarville.edu. Dr. Deurr, thanks again for your time and expertise here.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Have a good one.
It's 8:33 on WCRF. Practical tips coming up here for parents of scrolling kids.
Before the 5 love languages, Dr. Gary Chapman was a Moody student, and he never forgot that. Each week here on Moody, Dr. Chapman joins Chris and Andrea Fabry for Building Relationships.
I'm hoping it will open up her heart to let me in.
Things can be different to make this marriage successful.
It's an hour of life-changing insight and realistic advice rooted in the Word of God.
Don't give up. See what happens.
Building Relationships, Saturday afternoons at 2 here on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Are you looking for candid conversation from a biblical perspective? You found it. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
.38 practical tips coming up here for parents of scrolling kids in a digital age. But first, hey, it's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Christian counseling for adults, couples, children, and families. North Coast Family Foundation. And speaking of families, Lauren's family didn't sleep last night. Little Ellie man decided to stay awake.
Yeah.
So she was not able to come in today. A number of you reaching out, asking where she is. She's great. I mean, considering...
She's tired, I'm sure. She sent us a text at 2 a.m. Ellis did not sleep. I can't drive. I'm not coming in. Was the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good move. Her kids are more important in this show.
Also, is her getting to work safely, which I don't think she would have been able to do on less than an hour of sleep.
No, it wouldn't be wise, that's for sure. So, Lord willing, her kids will sleep tonight. She'll be back tomorrow. Before we go through some practical tips for parents of scrolling kids, I want to do a related side question. Who do you think ought to be able to have the quote-unquote authority to give us advice on practical tips for parents of scrolling kids? Like, what would be the qualifications where you'd go, aha, they know?
I would say doctors and other parents.
Be more specific about other parents. Like, what would you expect about these parents that they can
would
give
have
you advice?
Had children
Preferably
recently.
through late teens at the absolute youngest.
Why?
Because they've got experience. You also don't want parents that have children that are my age, because this wasn't the huge problem that it is now. But I think someone that's got kids that are in your age range, Brian, your teens are 17 through 19. But someone like that probably has some practical, relevant advice.
Yeah, and I like when people are out there with their advice. And so Crossway.org had somebody write an article, and here's how it starts. I'm a parent of 3 young children, ages 6, 4, and 3. Who are growing up in an age of ubiquitous screens, and essentially, and now I have advice for you on parents of scrolling kids.
Her oldest is 6?
His oldest is 6.
Okay.
Can't even read yet, probably.
His kid is scrolling
I
at
hope your
6?
6-year-old isn't scrolling. Your 3-year-old definitely better not be scrolling.
This kind of reminds me when Sarah and I were pregnant with our oldest daughter. Well, Sarah was pregnant. I was just along for the ride. And a friend of ours had a child like a month before ours. And he very proudly gave us parenting advice. And I wanted to slap him. It's like, what do you know about it?
This was maybe a year ago. There was a guy who was like 20 and engaged to be married, had he claimed he had all the parenting things figured out, and we all just had a good laugh. I mean, I'm not even a parent, and I know that you don't know anything until you've actually got children.
Oh, goodness, yeah. So I'm a little bit skeptical out of the gate. I have to say that. And I think that's how we should read usually, is not just because somebody published an article doesn't mean that they have all the best answers. And while I'm sure this guy's a great dad, your 6, 4, and 3-year-old may not have the experience you need to give the best advice, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
Because Ron, you've raised a bunch of kids and you have grandkids.
Yes.
And Daria was a kid not too long ago.
Hey.
You were a scrolling kid.
I was not.
What?
I was 17 when I got my first smartphone, and I was pretty good with regulating myself on that. Okay. I mean, there were iPad kids when I was growing up, but this was not the problem when I was a kid that it is now.
Wow, okay. I keep making you like 6.
Earlier, you didn't think I knew what a VHS tape was.
Well, it's funny when you watch videos of kids, like somebody hands them a rotary phone and says, you have 3 minutes to make a phone call, and they can't do it.
I vividly remember the switch from VHS to DVD. It was dramatic in our house because my dad refused, but Blockbuster stopped carrying VHSs, so we had no choice.
That's exactly why we got a DVD player.
Yes.
Begrudgingly, like I guess the writing's on the wall here when there's no VHS left. All right, so piece of advice number 1, mind your modeling, as in if you're telling your kids to get off their phone.
Yeah, I have really tried to start putting up some guardrails because I've noticed that it really is a time waster, and I realize that I'm less depressed and less motivated the more time I spend with my phone. Sorry, more depressed.
I've kind of wondered if we're reaching a really interesting point in history where just because the technology exists doesn't mean we're going to do it. Like, are we going to reach a point where people are like, I don't know if I want social media anymore?
I'm really hoping, because I think you've talked about this with your daughter, Brian. She's 19, where she says she doesn't know if she wants to give her kids screens. I think those of us that are in the late teens to early 20s or into late 20s, early 30s, we have seen what this has done to us because we have seen our lives dramatically change, and not for the better because of these little devices.
Next piece of advice, place boundaries around devices, as in limits to when they can and cannot be used. Is that good practical advice for parents of scrolling kids?
It's good advice. It's hard to stick to.
Yeah.
Because you're not always there. Yeah. Let's say I take my granddaughter to her cheer competition classes, and she's out after waiting for someone to pick her up, whether it's me or grandma or her mom or dad. She's going to be scrolling more than likely while she waits. Is that after the time that you've allowed? I mean, there's limits, but within your home, you certainly have the power to be the dictator and cut off the the Wi-Fi to the device.
Yeah, there's a number of strategies and Sarah and I use this to, I think, a high level of success. Not that we're great, just the technology exists. We used to collect phones at night. That became inconsistent. Mm-hmm. The easier way is, like you say, a lot of Wi-Fi routers have a way to go in with a password and shut it down at a time. Mm-hmm. But if they have cell service, that's meaningless.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's other things. For us, it's downtime is what it's called. Apple has this feature where you can actually brick a phone at a particular time for the period of time that you determine. Each day of the week can have a different set time.
Wow.
Now, it doesn't just brick it. Like, you can tell it which apps you want the kids to have access to and what people you want them to be able to have access to. Mm-hmm. So if they want to stay up all night texting me, they sure can. But they're not gonna.
Right.
If they want to call their grandma at midnight, I guess they can.
Grandma may not be happy about that.
And then I've even found, this was a newer one we discovered. Microsoft has an app called Family Safety. And one of my boys is at the age where he's way into Xbox. I can brick that Xbox whenever I want. And I know it works because when he has a little friend come over and for a sleepover, he can say, hey, Dad, can you extend our time on the Xbox tonight? Yes, I can. So again, there are ways to create boundaries that almost separately from you. Or it's like, I don't know, I didn't do it. It's set the time.
I do think you need to be careful about the boundaries you're imposing. I think boundaries are really good with technology. But you can't be one of those parents that says 30 minutes a day, period, because they're not just on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. Their entire social world is wrapped up in their phones. I mean, I would not have been a happy teenager back then. We were still using landlines. If they said you can only use the landline to talk to your friends this many hours a week.
I totally agree. For us, the boundaries are sleep. So our older kids brick at 10, even the high school kids. You need to go to sleep. So bricked. And then when they become seniors, we don't do that anymore. And I think juniors maybe. We don't have a hard and fast rule on that. The younger boys, 9 p.m., done. Mm. So I think that one's pretty good advice. What about this piece of advice? Vet the voices. So are you aware of the Voices podcast, YouTube channels, and influencers your kids are giving online attention to? Be proactive in vetting them.
You had a very visceral reaction to this one, Brian. Why don't you go ahead?
I think it's a perfectly expected response from a parent of a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Because they're watching Bluey or whatever, and you can check that. Good luck vetting all the things your teenager's watching. The minute you release them to YouTube and the internet on their phone, you have zero chance of vetting all the things they're watching.
Oh yeah, no, you're gonna have to sit over their shoulder for every second they're on their phone.
You don't have time.
You don't, especially if you've got multiple children.
It sounds horrible, and I know that there's very restrictive parents out there that'll be gasping and maybe spitting out their breakfast at this moment, but I think it is a fruitless and impossible task to vet all the voices.
Yeah, I think you should do your best to be aware, but I mean, if you've released your child onto the internet, you have released them into the wild, wild west.
If they're watching, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ron, sorry.
if they're watching YouTube and it's going to scroll, it'll finish the 20-second video or whatever and roll to another one and then roll to another one. And you don't know, the first one, they're watching Bluey, let's say, and then it becomes Peppa Pig, and then it's somebody else, Yo Gabba Gabba, and just keeps
I love the
scrolling.
sliding scale of terrible children's shows.
and then it becomes less children and more, adult themed, and all of a sudden maybe you've got Family Guy or South Park or something that, it's a cartoon. It's still kind of kid, but no, it's not kid at all. And it could go any direction. The algorithm just keeps branching farther and farther from the original.
Well, even if you're using quote unquote YouTube Kids, I've encountered a lot of people that don't know this. There is absolutely no vetting system for what is qualified as kids content. I mean, literally anybody can upload literally anything and say, yes, this is for kids.
That's right. It's one checkbox.
Correct. I'm our YouTube person. I can make anything safe for kids that I want. I don't, because it's a little bit more mature. But yeah, you can't just trust that the algorithms are going to make things safe for your kids.
So that being the case, what do you do? I mean, in a perfect world, you could regulate everything your kid's watching. So how do you fix this? Can you fix this?
As someone who knows a lot about YouTube, I don't think your children should be on YouTube at all. I think that needs to be a hard and fast rule.
Funny enough, kids don't watch TV anymore.
They don't.
On the TV, they watch YouTube.
Yeah.
So then what would you propose as the solution?
I don't know. I really don't. And I literally just said I'm not qualified to give advice, but I do know a lot about social media. So I don't know what the solution is, but I do know that there are plenty of apps out there that market themselves as family friendly, but are not.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's more important to cultivate an atmosphere where you can have honest conversations with your kids.
Right.
And they feel safe coming to you with uncomfortable things than it is for you to play the role, the impossible role of police officer of the internet.
And when they're really young, like this author's children, you can have them, when you hear a bad word, get away from that, and they can self-regulate somewhat with that. Now, when they get older, they're not going to tell you, oh, I heard a bad word. They probably will start leaning into that, be like, oh, he said that word. Let me see what else he says.
Yeah, and I'd also say a dose of, or a big splash of reality would be this. When in the late 80s and early 90s, I was not allowed to watch R-rated movies.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a lot of R-rated movies.
What? How did you do that?
Did it when your parents weren't home, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Or at friends' houses.
Friends' houses. And so, Ron, I'm assuming your childhood experience, you had rules on what you could watch or do, and you didn't follow them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let's just remind ourselves of the reality. We can't regulate this, and we never have been able, we as in humans, been able to fully regulate what our kids consume. So our choice that we're left with is how do we respond with that being true, rather than live in the false reality that you can vet the voices of your kids on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because my parents totally failed, God bless them, at keeping me from R-rated movies.
Right. And it was much easier then.
Yeah, way easier. Mm-hmm. So that's a splash of reality, perhaps. 8:51, we're up against a break, just a little bit more to go.
There are many ways to say,
I love you, Mom. I love you, Mommy. I love you, Mom.
we have an idea. Enter our Moments with Mom contest for a chance to give your mom, mother figure, or yourself a $550 gift package, a gift certificate for a day at the spa, and a $100 gift card to a variety of restaurants will go to a mother who reflects the love of Christ. Go to moodyradio.org/Cleveland or text MOM to 440-546-2255. We'd love to help you say,
I love you, Mom.
From the Windy City of Chicago, this is Chris Fabry Live. Thank you for joining us.
Chris Fabry Live on Moody Radio. What a bright spot in our afternoon.
Oh, that Chris Fabry program. That one's got a sense of humor.
Well, yeah, along with a great sense of mission. Chris?
The key element is the Word of God. If you have that thread of the Word, you know that it's going to make a difference in people's lives. That's what changes people.
It's Chris Fabry Live.
Weekdays at 3 p.m. here on Moody Radio.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Jesus. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
is 8:55 on WCRF. Don't forget to get your tickets for the Cleveland Leadership Prayer Breakfast. It's May 8th at the IX Center, featuring Army Ranger veteran and Army Ranger Hall of Famer Jeff Struecker. He's the keynote speaker. It's a wonderful event to bring an unsaved friend. And actually, we have a contest running where you could enter for your chance to win a pair of tickets to not just go, but to hang out with us at our table. Would love to have you there. Text the word breakfast to 440-546-2255. Text breakfast to 440-546-2255. We'll send you back a link where you can register for your chance to win. All right, I got a couple of stories in my stack of stories I didn't quite get to here that I want to go to. One of them, Wyoming's Game and Fish Department built a fake bear, Daria.
For why?
It's on a remote-controlled platform. It charges at you going 35 miles an hour.
Whoa.
Again, why?
It's called Truly the Tesla Bear. Just kidding. I don't think it's quite called that. But anyway, what it's doing is it's seeing if you can take out bear spray in time.
Okay.
It's like if you want to take a test, could you make it with a bear running at you?
Oh, okay.
Where you take out your bear spray and spray it.
This is a test. I thought this was like some elaborate home security system.
Like Jimmy's got a remote control bear.
Yeah.
No.
You get too close to something in the park you're not supposed to be at. We're going to send a fake bear after you to scare you straight.
No, it's to see if you can get the bear spray out in time. So how do you think people do?
They fail miserably.
Correct. Most people are dead meat, literally. Next one. How about this one? Ron and I are firmly staring at Daria with this data.
Oh, good.
61% of employees, now allow me to finish, not at this part, are backstabbed at work.
Oh, wait a minute.
Hold that. The main culprits, Gen Z and millennials, who are twice as likely to throw someone under the bus to climb the corporate ladder.
Oof.
1 in 4 workers say their boss has set them up to fail. Coworkers just feel totally backstabbed by Gen Z and millennials.
I'm surprised. Because
you're just trying to gain brownie points with Daria?
I've always heard the stories that it's the older people who are, trying to climb the ladder or maintain their position, and the young people, you can hardly get them to show up for work. So why would they backstab
They're not
somebody?
there to backstab anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a significant portion of Gen Z might struggle with taking personal responsibility and accountability. So I can see this potentially being a thing.
I didn't say that. My name is Brian. I didn't say that. Daria said that. I always thought it was like, for example, boomers had achieved the pinnacle of career and just for a lot of financial reasons can't retire.
Yeah.
So trying to climb the ladder, somebody's up there. What are you going to do?
I'm true in the second half. Climbing the corporate ladder was steps I did not take, but so I will be working until I die.
Well, hopefully it's a long time.
You'll still be here when I retire, Ron.
I might be.
What?
I remember when Daria first started here. That young whippersnapper.
Well, we got to get out of here. It's time for J.D. Greer to preach, but we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Moody Radio Cleveland.